to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings of the Township Council established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designated the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Where using electronic amplifying and recording device in order to obtain an audible and clear record, we request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly into the microphone. Recording device be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's Office and shall be the official record of Township Council meetings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Siler?
Here.
Mrs. Strata? Mrs. Winters? Here. Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Bianchini?
Present.
Mr. Lechner?
Here.
Deputy Chief Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Carlinger?
Here.
Mr. Cardis?
Here.
We'll have the first public portion. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda items only, please raise your hand and come to the microphone. Pete?
Good evening, Pete Heinball, Morningstar Court.
Good evening, Pete.
I have two questions from the bill list and then one additional question from an agenda item. On the bill list, item we paid to Sign Pros that's related to the Citizens Appreciation Park for $2,975. And the reason I'm asking the question is because it was charged to the Open Space Trust Fund, and I thought expenditure related to this park was from the Police Reserve Fund or some other fund. I forget which.
No, it's not correct. It's from the Open Space Recreation.
Well, there's other expenditures then. We seem to be mixing and matching, and there's other expenditures over the course of this bill list and prior bill lists that where we've charged Citizens Appreciation Park expenditures to a different trust fund.
Specifically, which ones are we talking about?
I don't have in front of me.
Well, if it was engineering, you may have taken it out of, would you take that out of open space? Or
Yeah.
would you take that out of
Anything
general engineering?
No, anything associated with the completion of that particular park, whether it be signage, whether it be concrete, whether it be grass installed, the plaques, engineering, that's all permissible to be charged against the recreation open space account.
So Pete, if you have specific,
I will get
maybe you
specific.
can send that to Tom.
I will do that.
Answer for
Yeah.
you.
I will do that. It seems, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Second question on the bill list. There's a vendor called Township Management Services. Who are they? What outfit is that? I don't know them.
It's a tree removal company. I'd have to research it, but my recollection is that they are a landscaper slash tree trimming company.
Could you tell by looking at the bill?
Probably not, but I'm almost 100% sure that that's the case.
Well, I'll follow up with Tom on both those questions, if that's all right. Next topic, R14:10-275. That's the advertising and bidding for the various professional services. Could you explain again how this bidding process works?
Well, Township has made a policy to go out for requests for qualifications and proposals from professional contractors, engineers, insurance, and those that are appointed on an annual basis specifically at reorganization. And the list of those that are included as part of this resolution, I believe there's one that has to be added to it. The township then will receive their criteria and qualifications of proposal according to the specifications that we've been establishing, which is pretty much standard and uniform over the last couple of years.
Right. What's the difference between that and we once in a while we'll award contracts with a no bid process?
So the statute in New Jersey allows if we go out and we go through an RFP, RFQ, and we name a township engineer for the year of street engineer, Once you do that once, as long as that's the engineer that's receiving the contract, you do not have to go back out for a resolution again each time you're going to award. If you're going to award to someone other than the professional provider of services engineer that was already awarded the street projects at the beginning of the year, then you have to go back out if it's someone different.
So some of the contracts that were on the list on this resolution will not go out for bid, we'll just award the bid to the incumbent
If
in
it's
some
an
cases?
engineer, talking about engineer, but it's an engineer that has already been awarded at the reorganization meeting for engineering of streets or engineering of open space or general engineering, as long as that contract goes to that engineer, you do not have to do a resolution each time.
We actually would do a straw poll at the
Correct.
workshop.
To make sure that all council is still awarding to that engineer.
But the initial one is everybody has an opportunity to submit their qualifications and proposals.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Ray?
Good evening, Council. Ray Palder, Ariel. Just one quick question on consent agenda resolution 1410-274. The language excessive workman's compensation insurance.
Want to explain that, Tom?
Yes, the township is self-funded on their workman's compensation. The township has a contract right now with a company called Qualinks that acts as a third-party administrator, so they process the claims for the township. There is also excess insurance. That excess insurance, I believe, is set right now at $500,000 per claim. So that is to stop a catastrophic loss under the workman's comp, and that's what the excess insurance is for. There's also an attorney firm that is part of the RFP, RFP that will be also going out for, and they handle the litigation.
Okay, with that, is this something that we do on a regular basis, is this routine, or is this
Yes.
something in excess? All right, and with the workman's comp insurance that we have now, that doesn't cover that catastrophic for what reason?
It covers, we're responsible under the self-insured situation, we're responsible for this first $500,000, and then there's an excess to cover that. Very rarely do we run into a case that would run so high. And that's the reason for the attorney and the TPA to process the claim and adjudicate the claim so that when it's finally paid out, it's paid out at the correct amount.
In the past 7 years, how many times has the amount of loss gone above that 500,000?
Never. To my knowledge, I don't know if Mr. Carliner recalls a situation where never.
Is there a reason that and have we always applied for or
Absolutely.
taken this on? So this is just in case insurance,
Absolutely.
and we've never had to use it? And it is only used for workman's compensation loss, correct?
That particular policy is strictly for the workman's comp.
Okay, answered my question, thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, we'll close the first public portion. Proclamation.
Whereas the prevalence of runaway and homelessness among youth is staggering, with studies suggesting that every year between 1,600,000 and 2,800,000 youth live on the streets of the United States. And whereas the problem of youth running away from home or foster care placement is widespread, and youth aged 12 to 17 are at a higher risk of homelessness than adults. And whereas runaway youth most often are youth who have been expelled from their homes by their families, physically, sexually, and emotionally abused at home, discharged by state custodial systems without adequate transition plans, separated from their parents by death and divorce, too poor to secure their own basic needs, and ineligible or unable to access adequate medical or mental health resources. And whereas children and youth in foster care, particularly those in group homes, are especially vulnerable to running away. And whereas children and youth who run away are at an increased risk for domestic sex trafficking. And whereas effective programs supporting runaway youth and assisting youth and their families in remaining at home or in safe foster homes succeed because of partnerships created among families, youth-based advocacy organizations, community-based human service agencies, law enforcement agencies, schools, state-based organizations, and businesses. And whereas preventing youth from running away from home or from foster care and supporting youth in high-risk situations is a family, community, and national priority. And whereas the future well-being of Gloucester Township is dependent on the opportunities provided for youth and families to acquire the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to help youth successfully transition to a safe, healthy, and productive adulthood, as well as having opportunities for youth to make good connections to caring adults and to engage in age-appropriate activities. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Gloucester Township Mayor David R. Mayor and Glenn D. Bean, Kennedy Council President, recognizes and supports the goals and ideals of national runaway prevention.
Thank you, Ron. Ordinances. These ordinances are of second reading, and there will be a public hearing. Ordinance O-14-16. Ordinance amending Chapter 58 entitled Hawkers, Peddlers, Canvassers, and Solicitors of the Code Book of the Township of Gloucester. This ordinance allows the township to have an applicant investigation to be completed in 45 days. If that investigation is not completed in 45 days, it then shall be deemed disapproved. Also, this ordinance talks about the badges that will be applied. They must be badges that are worn by the individuals that are soliciting business throughout the neighborhood. And as a result, once they're complete, the badges must be returned within 30 days. Dave, is there anything else to add?
That just reinforces the timeline for the investigation for appropriate completeness, as well as reinforces that the badges are the property of the township, so they can't be floating out there. And if it's not returned, it's a reason not to issue a new badge in the future.
Thank you. Now I'll have a public hearing on this ordinance. Seeing no hands, I'll close the public hearing. Motion to approve.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes. Ordinance O-14-17. Ordinance amending Chapter 81 entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Code Book of the Township of Gloucester, Camden County, State of New Jersey. This ordinance allows the police to enforce rules and laws on prospective, is this the one on the,
Also Prospect Avenues.
yes. I got this mixed up with something else, Dave. Oh, no, this is the Taco Bell one, okay, in which they can have regulation over the public parking area at Taco Bell restaurant, Blackwood Clementon Road.
Right, this amends Chapter 81, includes both those. It talks about Prospect Avenue, and then Title 39, enforcement on private
And
property.
this also deals with the speed limit on Lower Landing Road.
I believe so. Yes, right, just
I now have a public hearing on this ordinance. Seeing no hands, we close the public hearing. Motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes. Here. Just, for those that may have thought we were pulling 275, Mr. Cardis checked, and the information for the engineer, street engineer, is in there.
Okay, it is included.
So we
doesn't
do not,
require that.
so we do not have to. So now we come to the consent agenda. Any council person wishing to remove any of these resolutions, please let me know now.
Mr. President, can I have 270, please?
270.
Yes.
Anyone else? Do I have approval of the consent agenda? Minus 270.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Seiler?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Okay, 270, resolution authorizing execution of interlocal agreement between the County of Camden and Township of Gloucester pursuant to NJSA 48A1.
As this resolution states, it's an interlocal agreement between the County of Camden and the township. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
On On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schreier?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Abstain.
Mr. Bianchini?
Yes. There was no GTE Gov access questions, so we will get to the second public portion. Who wishes to speak on any item, please raise your hand, come to the microphone. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mrs. Thompson, 300 Drexel Avenue. It's, I wanted to submit the Health Department complaint of 307 to council for the over-accessing feeding of the wildlife birds.
Give it to our clerk, please. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Anyone, Ray?
Good evening again, Ray Polidor, Ariel. A couple items I'd like to ask about more so, update on, because we discussed these earlier. I had asked council previously, at least on one, if not two occasions. Back in the previous administration, the township building was brought to a 4-day work week because of the electric and the electric system and the bills. Since we become a green community, we have solar everywhere around this township, including on the building. I got to believe that our electric bill is much more in order. And I had asked previously why we're still on a 4-day work week. Just as a litmus test, I asked my boss if I could work a 4-day week. I'd save him in gas and I'd save him a couple bucks. And he said, we have business to do and 5 days is our work week. I also asked a few other folks, and everyone works a 5-day work week, except for Gloucester Township. I did not hear a response other than acting council president Mercado was going to check with the mayor, and I haven't heard anything back. Is there anything that I could be enlightened on as to why our township is only open 4 days a week? And I understand that we've got some later hours, and to some that's a benefit, but the DMV works that out where they have one late day, but they work 5 days, if not and more. So why are we not working 5 days a week?
I think to do that, to say, keep the extra hours, as Mr. Aldor indicated, you would need additional staffing to do that. Currently, we do not have that ample staffing to work a 5-day and also be open later at night. So, I mean, that would be a concern.
Suppose the current employees, as what used to be, go to a 5-day work week. What's the, again, 5 days of work in 1 week?
I believe under the schedule, we would close at either 4 or 4:30.
So right now, the hours are what?
And we would not be open as early, we would be open at 8.
Okay, so we open right now at 8 in the morning?
We're open from 8 to 5:45.
Okay. And if we went to a 5-day work week, we would be open when?
We would be open, I
It
believe,
used to be 8:30 to 4:30.
8:30, 4:30.
Okay, and most people get done their job at 5, so they'd have to take a day off from work in order to do business.
That could be the scenario, yes.
I myself, Ray, it's difficult for me to leave before 5, so
I thought someone might come up with that, and I
just
thought of the remedy for that is simply on one work day a week, maybe Friday, the township building open later and stay open later. It's just a matter of shifting of hours. Many people do that in their life. Many people have to wait and leave their job for me when I do an in-home service call. But in any event, not everyone has the availability to leave their job. But in shifting the hours from a later start to a later open, it would give us that one night a week where we'd be open a little later than usual and would accommodate those who couldn't otherwise make it. Again, the DMV works that out and quite a few other governmental agencies do that.
everybody's so happy with the DMV.
Actually, you get in and out of there rather quick, but if you want to compare yourself to the DMV, that's fine with me.
And just a little history on it. This dates back to the end of the 1970s, we were on a 4-day work week again, Monday through Thursday. At a point when Mayor Love was here, we went to a modified 5-day work week, which did require additional personnel, and that carried on into Ms. Rao Hatton's term. We were on a 4-day week. She made that decision to go to a 5-day, from a 5-day to a 4-day.
Right.
Based on limited personnel, and that's always been the issue, is being able to maintain a higher level of personnel, and unfortunately, we don't have that luxury because of the budget.
And I remember more the utility benefit from reducing utility costs. I had forgotten about the personnel.
Well, the
And-
utility part of that has basically come to our solar,
Well, I would differ with you regarding our building, because this building is not, very little of this building is powered by solar. The array that sits on top of this building is very negligible in terms of what that contributes to the energy. What I will say to you, with the recent ESIP program, for example, the Public Works has been installing light sensors throughout the entire building, so when you leave a room after a certain period of time, that light shuts off. Our computerization of the HVAC system with the lighting, really on those days where we're closed, we are saving money because of the technology. Technology is a lot different than it was 5 years ago, 3 years ago.
I know that most people come in and out of the door of this municipal building to look at a piece of equipment that shows just how much and efficient the township is working, and I think maybe that we're running more efficiently, maybe a 5-day work week. I mean, it's all about 5 work days and being open 5 days. I mean, it's just not. And this may sound political, but to some folks that have more than one job in this township, it's not going to be so easy, but 5 work days for people this building would be great. Our police work 7 days a week. Least we could do is give them 5 in the rest of the building. I think that'd be nice. Enough on that. I also asked about the American Traffic Solutions for the 2 months that they failed to do their job. Have we come to a resolution, and what did we receive from them? And if not, why not, and when?
I have to verify that information, Ray. I don't have everything with me here, but it's my understanding that they did not bill us for an entire month period to make up for the 561 violations that were not able to be processed correctly. There was a particular month, I want to say it was either May or June, where the fines came in lower than the cost for that month for the signals. And in that particular case, the bill was offset to cover the actual amount of fines that were collected in that particular month.
Okay, when you and I discussed this the last time, there was 2 months. There was 2 months that the township did not benefit from the fines that they failed to follow through with their portion.
I'm referring to that when I say the 561 violations. They occurred over a period, I believe, of 2 months in excess. It might have been 2 months in a week or 2 months in 2 weeks.
Okay, so here's the math that we did before, and I don't have those same numbers with me. Now, it was at 47,500 when it started, but when this system went down and American Traffic Solutions failed, that was 49,000, how much?
I don't recall the exact amount. It was 47,500 per month. It was actually 4,750 per camera.
Per camera times 10.
10 cameras for each month. And they were permitted to increase that amount at a certain point in the contract. I know Mr. Carlinger had a chance to review that. He did verify that after a certain point in time, they could increase that amount.
They increased it, if my memory serves me right, 49,500.
I don't know if it's 49.
40, let's say at least 49,000.
It's 49.
Okay, so Gloucester Township asking for anything less than $98,000 back for American Traffic Solutions, or a billing less $98,000 is unacceptable. That's a waste of our money. So what is the amount that we are not being billed by American Traffic Solutions? 1 month or 2 months? I need an actual.
Yeah,
number?
I don't have those numbers. It's not based on those months, though. It's based on the violations and what the township would have received from the violations.
If they did not do their job, they don't get paid. 2 months,
The issue
49,000 is
again,
98,000, it's
the issue
easy.
is the violations, the 500, and again, on my recollection is correct, it's 561 violations that were not able to be processed. Of an $85 fine, the municipality would keep $73.50. $11.50 is turned over to the state of New Jersey.
Tom, that's irrelevant. If they didn't do their job, there are no fines. There's no tickets, no fines. If we pay them, they take from us $49,000 a month, and they didn't do their job for 2 months, that's $98,000. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It fines me nothing. They didn't do their job. They don't get $49,000 for either month. That's easy. You're giving our money away if you give that, anything less than that, they take our money for doing nothing.
Well, Ray, let Tom look at it and research it and get you.
We already talked about this, that's why I was expecting an answer tonight. And that, no, nothing personal, Tom. It's an answer. It's our money, and yours as well.
I'll shoot you an email tomorrow and I'll explain to you exactly how we were reimbursed, but I do know that we were reimbursed for those 561 violations that weren't processed.
All right, and again, you're talking violations, there are no violations, they didn't do their job. 2 months at 49,000 is what the taxpayers deserve. Speaking of red light cameras, I'll ask once again that I've asked in the next coming months, the red light camera contracts will expire. Does this body have a remedy for the amount of money that will be lost and what we're going to do to make up for that other than to take it from us?
I think that the money is negligible anymore, isn't it?
It actually is. I think at the last calculation, I had figured it to be somewhere in the vicinity of 220 to 235,000 in fines that were coming in. Basically, what we've seen is a learning curve.
Right.
People are getting smarter about going through those lights without coming to a full stop, and there has been a substantial decrease in the number of fines since what we saw, 4 or 5 years ago.
Right, I mean, when this program was first started, it was to reduce and curb certain activity on the roadways. It was always anticipated that the number of violations would be reduced dramatically over the years. That's been borne out by the numbers. So you've brought this topic up a couple of times, and the revenue that came to the town has always been decreasing. So I think that we've managed to address your question over the years.
Well, let me say that for you, maybe 200 and some odd thousand dollars negligible to the taxpayer of Gloucester Township. It's money.
Well,
But
it's comparatively speaking from when it first started. You know that.
okay, but if we knew that the fines in one heavy go down, and we thought it was good business sense to allow American Traffic Solutions to raise the amount of money that they charge us, that didn't seem like a great business decision on Gloucester Township's part. We're going to give them more money with the expectations that we're going to bring less in. Enough
So
said.
just addressing the second point you made.
Okay. 2 more items and I will move on. I guess this would also go to Mr. Cardis. In the past week, there have been some signs, political signs, on the property of the senior center on Hyder Lane. Now, ordinarily, that's Public Works' responsibility to remove signs in places that they don't belong. They would no sooner be put in the parking lot here of Gloucester Township Municipal Building, nor should they be put in at the senior center on Hyder Lane or any other senior facility.
I'm unaware of it. I will look into it.
I'm making you aware of that. And last but not least, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to get a little political right now. And I'm very cordial with you guys, and I think I'm very, very respectful all the time that I speak with you. But in the past week, it came to my attention, and I got to observe one of the nastiest political things I've seen in quite some time. Mind you, I come from politics in Philadelphia. I've never seen anything like I saw this past week about a school board race which is supposed to be nonpartisan. And let's be honest here. The township basically is under control of one party. The responsibility of the party is what it is. And we also want to be real in identifying the PAC organizations that are associated with said organization. That was a absolutely ridiculous low blow to put in a non-partisan race And I think the organization to which you folks belong to ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Now, if that disgusting ad had not come down, tonight we would be talking about the source of that. Now, I've been against you guys, not myself, but had to play politics with you guys, and I've seen politics, but not quite like this. And if we're going to be honest, if that thing had stayed up tonight, we'd be talking about the source of that, and where that came from, and where the PAC group was located, and who owns that rental property, and who stays in that rental property. Because someone up here has a relationship with, or is a family member of, the person that lives at that address. And this could have gotten really ugly right back. I would have expected a little bit more. And keep in mind, this is a school board race. This is not for mayor, and this is not for council. But you guys are associated with that organization, and you can give me all the pack this and pack that you want, but we all know the truth. Is there anyone up here that saw that video?
No, but I think it's, Ray, I'll be honest with you. I'm listening to you, and it's so hypocritical of you as the president of your organization to make these claims. I mean, the things that have been said about me by your organization, by your people, have been terrible, absolutely terrible, and went way beyond anything. So, you know what?
Dan, nice try.
No, this is
Nice
not,
try.
This is not the correct.
This was not the same. This was not the same thing. It's not a political ball game. I don't represent those people. If memory serves me right, and I'm only guessing, there's 2 Democrats and 1 Republican on that. That's not like it's a Republican slate or a Democrat slate. It's them and them. And it is nothing like the political circus that goes on here when council and mayor run. Dan, you and I had a brief conversation about that. That was absolutely disgusting. That was horrible. And like I said, tonight we could be talking about the person that rents that address. You want me to go there?
But Ray, my problem is,
Do you want me to go there?
Right? This is a governmental meeting. I know you're talking politics. I know you're upset about it, but this is governmental.
So should you be.
This is governmental, and I would ask that that part of it, you had your say. That's fine. Get to your point. Or
I would like the answer to the question. Did anyone up here see it?
Yeah.
Did anyone see it?
Yes,
Did you agree with it?
it's off his website.
Excuse me?
It's off his website.
Did you agree with it in what you saw? Well, it's not your profession as an attorney.
I'm
But-
not an attorney, but it's off his website. I saw the video.
Okay.
But I agree with Mr. Bianchini. This is a governmental meeting. You want to talk about politics, we can talk about it later on.
But let's call this what it is. Some organizations hide behind a PAC. But I'm saying that in a public forum, and I'm being respectful. There's a young man with his mother here observing our government. This is it's as cordial as I could be and as respectful as I could be. But this needed to be addressed in a public forum because it went public, it went on YouTube. And everyone here knows the relationship with the PACs and the organization. It's not something the other side would have done. It's not the same thing as a regular political back and forth, Dan. It's not the same thing.
I really disagree with you, Ray.
You can.
I mean, you have not been sitting where I've sat and had the things said about you that have been said about me. And maybe you need to take a look at that.
Dan, you ran for election. You knew what you were getting yourself into. You're elected. That's a race right now, and it's for school board. It's the people that are going to be making decisions for our children. You chose to sit there. You have to take the ridicule. That's your job. No one needs to be disrespectful of you. I don't agree with that. But when you took that seat, you knew what came along with it.
But Ray, they're blatant out and out lies.
Dan, it's nothing in comparison. If your feelings got hurt, I'm sorry, but that's not the same thing. I've said all that I needed to, and again, you know I don't get political up here. I point things out that need to be pointed out, and I'm very consistent. I'm pointing something out that needed to get pointed out. So thank you for listening, and I hope somewhere along the lines something like that doesn't happen again.
Pete?
Pete Heinbaugh, Morningstar Court. Mr. Paldor and I didn't compare notes before this meeting, but I do also want to speak about PACs and campaign finance. And I do think it's a government issue because virtually every penny that's donated to these PACs and to political campaign committees, Mr. Hutchins, everyone up here, almost every penny that's donated to these, that's contributed to these PACs and campaigns, come from contractors who hold contracts with our government. So I think it's very much a government issue. Like I said, Ray and I didn't compare notes before this, but I wanted to address this topic too. Here's a number, 157,920. That's how much the EFO, Mayor Hutchinson Schmidt Winters, collected in contributions for the 2013 campaign. Every penny was connected in some way. 90+% were directly from firms that have contracts with our government. Worse than that, the same campaign committee, that campaign is still, that election took place in November 2013. That campaign is still collecting funds today. It's still open. They submitted a third quarter report to ELEC, to the Election Law Enforcement Commission, where it shows post-election, since November of 2013, they still have collected $16,700 in contributions, and again, every penny was from a firm that has a contract with the government. That's one example. I got a page full of examples here. I'm going to give one more because this one sounds worse. The 2009 EFO, Mayor Hutchinson Schmidt Winters. No, I got it wrong. Not Winters. Who was your, whoever your running mate, Gentech. 2009, Mayor Hutchinson Gentech Schmidt. 2009, collected $258,205. $258,000 for a Gloucester Township Council election, mayor and council election. And again, every penny, virtually, 95+% came from firms that have contracts with our government. So it is a government issue. It's a conflict of interest. Do you feel it's a conflict of interest, these types of donations, these types of contributions to campaign? Does anyone up here consider a conflict of interest? Appearance of conflict of interest? That you can't.
Peter, are you insinuating that any laws have been violated?
No.
Okay,
No.
I just wanted to make sure.
But Pete,
Ethics and conflicts of interest and things like that.
you sure you don't believe anything has been broken? Because
I can't claim that.
I've seen you written that you've called us corrupt.
Corrupt, sure. Maybe I have.
You
Maybe
say
I
that
have.
online, but when you come here,
No, okay. I've called you
say the role of a
corrupt.
gentleman. You never
Yes,
say
I
those
do.
things about
Yes, I
us.
do.
So, you believe
Okay,
we're
I've
corrupt.
called you corrupt online, yes.
Okay, you say anything you want. I just asked you the same question that you have said online. You say we're corrupt, okay?
I say
But now you're not going to say that. You're not going to say we're breaking any laws.
No, there's a
today.
difference.
So
You can be unethical
so
and
you're going to
I never ever,
play with the words, right, Pete?
well, I've never ever accused.
Am I going to get accused of bullying you right now, or am I allowed to come back at you because you're saying we're corrupt?
Come at me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna,
I'm not picking on somebody today.
I've never claimed you bullied me. I never made that claim.
You and your friends all
Well-
said I bullied you, and you know what, Pete?
Well, do you think there's a conflict of interest?
Say what you say behind the screen to our face. At least be man enough to do that.
Okay, let me start over.
Keep going.
This 2009 EFO, the election was November 2009. It stayed open and collected contributions till the end of 2012. The end of 2012. That's 2010, 2011, 2012. It stayed open. Not illegal.
Did we violate an election law?
No. Not that
What's
I'm
your
aware of.
point?
Okay.
Have you been to any other town? Are we different than any other town?
That's another good question.
Okay, what is Cherry Hill doing?
Cherry Hill has a PAC that also looks.
What is
corrupt.
Washington Township doing?
I haven't seen. I looked. I don't see
What is
PACs.
Berlin doing?
I don't see any. ELEC has no PACs, active PACs for Berlin. I look. I can. Okay, let me read on.
Pete, you know, we're the same organization I think that you applied to run with. and we said no to you,
Yeah,
correct?
right, and then I started,
And now this is all coming about after we said no.
so you think it's personal because you
Yes,
said no?
absolutely, Pete. I've read what you put online. I absolutely think that you're upset
Oh.
that we said no, we ran someone else, and now this is what you have to say. Why were we so good then, when you wanted to run with it?
Because-
And now, are you
Dan,
enlightened?
because ideologically, I agree with more of what you say than more of what your opponents say, ideologically.
I would never know that.
I told you and I wanted to run with you. What, you're not putting things
We
together
were good
properly.
enough for you then, but not now.
Because I look more closely at this kind of thing.
Okay, Pete. Sure.
Go ahead, Pete.
Take a breath. I did look at the ELAC system for PACs in every neighboring town that borders with us. Berlin, Winslow, Pine Hill, Runnymede, Somerdale, Voorhees, Lindenwold, Laurel Springs, Hynella, Clementon. Zero PACs. I even looked at ones a little further away, Haddonfield, Haddon Heights, Haddon Township, Gloucester City, Collingswood. Zero. Cherry Hill has a big, nasty-looking PAC. So I would accuse them of being unethical as well.
How's Mount Laurel? How's Evesham?
I didn't go outside the county. I
Is it
looked at Washington Township, I looked at Deptford,
Is it because they're a Republican?
and I looked at
county?
Atlantic City. Oh, Dan, I don't know. You
Well,
think
do me a favor. I'd
you're-
love to hear your. I'd love to hear. what
you're
you have
putting
to say.
your values, how you would think, onto me. I don't,
Curious.
how can you deny an appearance of conflict of interest from the donations, contributions that we can all see, that I've looked at very closely? Remington and Vernig, Acacia Financial, Blue Sky Power, Bach Associates.
What have we done that is corrupt? Give me an example.
Well, these folks all have contracts. That's,
Corrupt means violating the law.
no, look up corrupt in the dictionary. It doesn't have to mean
Okay,
that.
what
It just
does
means,
it mean?
just means you're not following a process that is fair and open to, is fair to, and just to people.
So we're violating the election law then?
No,
Well, then what do you mean?
I mean,
What process did we not follow?
you're not violating any law. I never said that. I never have said it, and I
You said
don't.
we're corrupt.
Yes.
You hid behind your computer, you said we were corrupt.
I'm right here.
I want to know specifically what you mean by I am corrupt. This board is corrupt.
When hundreds of thousands of dollars of election campaign contributions, including the PACs, are all 100% from firms that have contracts with the government. What?
That's a violation of
No.
campaign financing laws.
No, apparently not. No,
So how is that corrupt?
because the same firms that you're giving contracts to, that you're accepting contributions from, you're giving contracts to. Corrupt, it's a small c, an out of court, not a courtroom, capital C.
And you're a
That's small.
professional. And
No, I'm looking at the PAC
those
reports.
words.
No, I was gonna look at the dictionary, I look at the definition of corrupt. It
Yeah.
does,
I see.
Can you wrap up your comments?
so, does anyone feel that this is, I'll ask a question, I'll end it with a question. Does anyone feel that this is a appearance of conflict of interest, all this PAC and campaign finance contribution information? Does anyone feel that?
No, Pete, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, man.
Joanne Clark, Timber Birch. The discussion before about the solar panels and everything sparked something. How soon can we expect the electric aggregation to begin so that we, the citizens, will save individual monies?
I know that we posted an update to the frequently asked questions. It's on the website, and that was posted, I believe, 2 weeks ago. The agreements have been executed with PSE&G and with Atlantic Electric, so the only thing left at this point is the actual bid process itself. and I know they're very sensitive to the way the market is and the way the rate fluctuates. So I don't have an answer for you when exactly they're going to go out for these bids. But again, there is something up on our website. If you have specific questions, Julian, I can always present it to the people that are trying to put this together. It's not us, we are participants in it, but it is it's a cooperative purchasing, is that correct word, Mr. Qualman? It's a cooperative purchasing agreement with many municipalities, both in the southern portion of New Jersey and in the northern section.
Well, as I said, the earlier discussion on solar and the electric that we were using sparked the question, and I'm just thinking, it's been a long time. That's what prompted the question.
Remember, Joanne, that in all that discussion, that education, that town meeting, unless they were going to have a savings, they were not going to do it. So I imagine.
Are they finding that's happening?
And I would ask Tom maybe that at the workshop, if you could follow up on that so that not only the residents will know, but
So there's a possibility that we may not follow through with it.
if there's no savings, and it had to be for a certain amount of time, and it had to be a savings for everyone.
Substantial.
Yes,
Right.
so that's why it has not happened. And again, I would ask, Tom's going to bring an update, but my assumption is that they are continuing to watch those rates, and as they fluctuate, then hopefully, and it had to be for a certain period of time. I don't know exactly the years or the months that it had to be part of.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That just sparked another one. That's the way my mind works. Back to the red light cameras. You were throwing numbers about. I remember them saying that if we didn't take in enough money to cover the cost, they wouldn't charge us. And then you were saying something about 250. Are we making more money than it is costing us to keep the red light cameras?
The agreement, I'll let Mr. Carlemere talk further on it, but the agreement is that whatever the cost is to maintain the lights, my understanding on a monthly basis, that compared to the actual fines that are actually charged, that if there is a drop so that the
Significant
fines are
drop.
less than the cost, then the cost is adjusted down to the amount of fines that were collected in that particular month.
Has that happened here?
I believe it has. I'm going to confirm that. And that's
So there are some instances that on a particular street corner, we won't be paying as much as we had.
only recently. I don't know if that's applicable to individual cameras or if that's applicable to the entire installation on a monthly basis.
Yeah, there is a flat fee, a monthly fee that the township by contract is paying. When we generate dollars less than that fee, we pay the lesser amount. I've asked my office staff today to reach out to the court side to give us an audit report as in a sense as to how much money's been coming in so that we can check what's been paid out.
Okay. I'm happy to hear that there are less violations. Is there a way you can do a study to determine that people are in fact behaving differently at these lights, or are they avoiding the lights and there's less volume at these lights?
Well, that's an interesting point. I got a red light ticket in Deptford, where it brings you down on the 42. Well, I got one there. And I like taking that way home. So I initially avoided it because I was so mad at Deptford for getting that ticket. I couldn't believe that I had done it. I went in, I looked at it on camera. I, in fact, absolutely blew the red light.
You owned it.
So I then changed back. My pattern came back. I still go through Deptford now because that's the most convenient way. So for my own personal situation,
Right.
I don't avoid it.
All right, but some of the, I don't know how to phrase it, but I mean, I had heard that an awful lot of people are taking a different route to get to places. And it would be interesting to find out the volume of people going through now, and if the program ends, will it change? Will it go back? And that sparked one other question. We keep saying, what are you going to do when it's done? Do you have any intentions of stopping the red light camera when the pilot is finished? Or are you going to
I think
continue?
that's a decision the state's going to have.
Yeah, that's a state decision whether they allow us to continue with it or not.
But your question, I think.
But if they allow you to, will you continue?
I don't know. I haven't made up my mind. I don't like, I hated getting that red light camera ticket. But I really did violate the law. And I'm thinking, I mean, it's a quandary. I mean, I was mad at the Township of Deptford. I didn't even want to go shopping in Deptford when I got the ticket. I was so angry. But if it does make our roads safer,
I wouldn't want to put the deputy chief on the spot, but I know there are some studies recently that have been released that equate that the red light cameras have cut down on the number of motor vehicle accidents in those intersections where they're installed, so.
I could say, again, I don't have the exact numbers, but there's been a decline. And again, I don't have exact numbers on the traffic flows along Black Clemson Road, but in speaking, and we conduct enforcement operations on Blackwood Clemson Road regularly. It's one of our busiest highways in the town, and the perception of our officers is that there's a high volume of traffic. I don't believe, my personal opinion is that there hasn't been a significant decrease in people traveling on Blackwood Clemson Road. I can tell you from sometimes when I have to travel going on a call or something, that it seems to be more crowded, and I'm a lifelong, I grew up here. So again, I don't have quantitative numbers. It would be very intense to run traffic studies for long periods of time. But as a general perception and the feedback that we receive, the road is safer because there's been a decrease of crashes, and by far people's behaviors have changed by stopping at those red lights. And it's not just right turn red lights. It's people, when the light goes yellow, people are stopping, and versus trying to gun through them. A lot of decreases on that. So I think it's my personal opinion, it's effective for decreasing the number of violations.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening, Council. Jennifer O'Donnell, Ariel. I have a couple of things. Does Gloucester Township Public Schools pay you guys or Gloucester Township anything for solar panels? They pay nothing.
No, they may have paid their, the regional school district paid for their portion of the ESIP program, but the actual solar array and everything was paid for by Marina. It was installed by RAI. Marina is the beneficiary of whatever the savings are after each of the individual entities saves their money. So those panels are serving to save energy dollars for the schools themselves, and anything that would be affixed to our arrays, such as Public Works, would save money for the township. So wherever they're at, they're specifically saving money for wherever they're located.
So that's a no. You answered my question, and you talked to Mr. Hutchinson the whole time, and I'm wondering why you're not.
I respond to the council president. I'm looking towards the
And then he responds to me, or I just hear you?
everything goes through the council
Okay,
president.
got it. My son tries to corner the mayor every time he sees him because he is desperate for a safe way to get around the township, especially our end of the township, on his bike. We live in the Ariel section, not the Sicklerville section. He has a friend that lives out on Jarvis Road. Union Valley is out on Jarvis Road. I think the property, there's not even a shoulder on a lot of that. Not that we would love bike lanes, but in that area, the people's property is growing out literally to the yellow line. So he has to ride his bike into the street to get to a friend's house. So I know that that's probably a county road, the road we live on is a county road, but you guys, as my elected officials, I would like maybe you guys to take a look at what it would take to get some safe biking paths in the township.
Yeah, we'll definitely reach out to the county and try to get someone to take a look at that and make some recommendations.
Okay, cool. So I'd like to go back to the video. I am a parent of 2 children in Gloucester Township Public School System. And the video was paid for by Parents for Educational Excellence, who is primarily funded by Remington and Vernick, the engineering company for Gloucester Township. You, Mr. Hutchinson, are a politician. You ran on a slate stating you were Democrat or Republic, and you're a politician.
You're right.
The school board takes a code of ethics and they raise their hand and swear that they will not be beholden to any political party. So it looks a little strange that 3 of the candidates' primary function is coming from you guys, pretty much. Your contractors, people you pay money to. So they're giving this PAC however much money they are, and in return, they get tenfold paid by the taxpayers of this township. And is it criminal? No, but it is hugely unethical. And Mr. Mercado, I am surprised as an employee of Gloucester Township Public Schools that you spoke up about that at all.
I don't understand your question.
Hold on.
It's not a question, excuse me. I'm just surprised as an employee of Gloucester Township Public Schools who is hired by the school board. I'm surprised
I looked at the video.
that you spoke up about it here and now.
Mr. Polidoro asked me a question, Jen.
I'm pretty sure he asked the entire council and you chose to respond. I'm just surprised.
I always respond.
No, you don't always respond.
You ask me a question, I respond.
You didn't respond about the solar panels. I didn't ask you a question, Mr. Mercado. I just simply stated that I was surprised that being an employee hired by the Board of Education
Yes.
for Gloucester Township, that you spoke up about the Board of Education race, where you sit on here as a Democrat and all.
Misstating things, Ms. O'Donnell.
What am I misstating?
He didn't speak
No,
about
let
the
me,
race.
Dan, let me respond.
He spoke up about the video, the very highly inappropriate video that was funded by people you employ, you choose to give taxpayer money to.
Ms. O'Donnell,
That's
we
all.
were asked the question, I responded, yes, I took a look at the video.
And then you elaborated.
Oh,
You elaborated. That's
It-
okay.
it-
I'm just saying I'm surprised, Mr.
What
Mercado.
did he
That's
say?
all.
How did he elaborate? What specifically did he say?
He elaborated.
What did he, how did he
Can
elaborate?
we just read back the notes? Because I want to be exact. If I'm going to answer your question, I'm going to be exact. I will not stand here and be, as your words were, bullied by you, Mr. Hutchinson. I won't. You use those words. Absolutely not. Have you ever been there?
Yes, I have.
You have? Oh, really?
I watched you.
Where?
And I said to myself.
Where did you watch me, sir?
Where was that meeting that I attended? Is it school?
Lewis.
Lewis. And I walked out of that meeting and I said, oh my goodness. Does that person...
What did I say?
Does she live in our town?
What did I say exactly?
You sat in your chair and you read. You read from pre-written notes. And you ripped every single one of those people up there who disagreed with you.
Oh, are you talking about January 2 years ago? Because that's the only time I ever mentioned names at a school board meeting. Was the place packed with 200 people?
I know what
I'm
you're
just
doing.
curious as to what specifically you're talking about.
I've seen this before. So this is a replay of what you did that night. Okay, but that's...
When exactly was it?
I'm a politician. My job is to take the abuse that you're going to throw at us, so bring it on.
I did not abuse you yet, sir.
Well, that's...
I did not abuse you yet. And I am not afraid of you. I have children.
I know you're not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ray?
Ray Polidoro, Ariel, just a brief follow-up. One of the other things I forgot to ask, previously on the red light camera issue, I had posed the question to council and Chief Earl at the time. Majority of the tickets and fines coming out of the red light camera at Ariel and Brooklyn and Blackwood Clemens Road were no turn on reds. I thought worthy of mention, and the council should think about, as well as the chief and police department. That intersection is in extremely close proximity to Highland High School, and I asked why that was even allowed to turn on red with a school at that location. I do believe that would remedy two issues. Number one, it would cut down on the violators, but I'm sorry, that's number two. Number one, if you don't turn on red at an intersection where there's a school, that would be even safer than worried about who turns when on red. And I don't remember hearing a response from either the police department or council at this point.
No, I think the chief did respond. He was concerned about queuing at the rush hour points where that would back all the way up onto...
But he was looking into it as well.
He did respond to that. I was here. I heard
But that was a matter of, as far as the traffic flow going back,
Now, his concern was relative to the state of New Jersey and DOT approving something like that because of that queuing effect.
but also he was looking into that to see what the feasibility of that was, if that were the case.
You said he did
At that
respond.
point.
He did.
Council look into that as well. And a follow-up to Pete, and again, it may sound like Pete and I are cahoots, but I can tell you that that's not the case. Mr. Hutchinson, I know that you took offense to, and Mr. Mercado took offense to the word corrupt. I'm going to set the Wayback Machine, Joshua Berry standing here, and proposing and really absolutely hacking at you guys about some real pay-to-play legislation. At the time, Mr. Hutchinson was very vocal, and you thought it was more beneficial to worry about super PACs. So as far as what Mr. Heimbold was trying to point out, you did have an opportunity to remedy a situation with Blue Sky. And no offense, Mr. Cantwell, my friend, Remington and Vernick, and all the other huge contributors that are also vendors and contractors in our town. I would not call it corrupt, but I surely would say when you look in the mirror tonight, you should feel a bit of guilt, and the terminology would be ethically challenged. That's what I do believe you are. When you had the chance to remedy this pay-to-play problem, and quite frankly, I haven't seen the numbers that Pete saw, Cherry Hill compared to Gloucester Township. It doesn't look good, but I'll tell you what, I can compare you to Philly, and you guys don't look good. It's bad. And again, it's super PACs, really? Super PACs? The Koch brothers? Some, yeah, not in Gloucester Township. If you really wanted to do some fixing of that and not be linked with the word corrupt, but you're still going to be ethically challenged, maybe look at that again. And Josh Berry moved out of town. I know you miss him dearly, but that's really where you had the choice to make that decision. And I don't think that conversation with Mr. Heimbold would have been happening as it did tonight. So that's all I got to say about that. Thank you.
Ray. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Seeing no hands, we close the second public portion. Calling the directors at council, please.
Deputy Chief Harkins?
Council, just want to inform you, and regret to have to inform you, that we lost a retired member of the police department, Sergeant Felix Radich, who served the Gloucester Township Police Department from 1968 to 1993. Was also a life member of the Chews Landing Fire Company. Tragically was killed in a pedestrian crash in Runnymede last Thursday. So I just want to keep you informed that his funeral services are on Wednesday from 10 to 1. So just ask you keep the Radich family in your thoughts.
Thank you, Deputy Chief.
Mr. Lackner?
I have nothing to report, thank you.
Parliament?
Nothing to report.
Cardis?
Just my condolences to the Radish family.
Mr. Hutchison?
For those of you who came tonight, I appreciate you coming to tonight's council meeting. For those of you who this may be your first council meeting, I apologize for the heatedness. Sometimes when you come to a meeting for the first time, you can't get a full flavor for what has happened in the past. And I've had people come up to us and say, you know, how do you sit up there and just constantly take the abuse? It's not fair, it's not accurate, and so this is my attempt to speak back, not to take the abuse of some of the people who have bullied other school boards, to the point where people don't even want to go to the school board meetings anymore because they can't sit through it. And when people lay claims behind the computer that you're corrupt, shall we just sit up here? Or when given the opportunity to confront that individual, we ask that person, what specifically do you mean? How are we corrupt? And the person cannot back up his words behind the computer screen. So I apologize to maybe the younger citizens in this community that they had to sit through that if it made them uncomfortable. I truly am apologetic for that. Have a good night.
Mr. Schmidt?
Also, I'd like to convey condolences to the Radich family. I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening. Thank you for your comments. And I'd like to thank Mr. Mercado for the Trick or Trunk Halloween activity at the park last Friday. Many children, many happy parents, and a safe, secure environment. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Mr. Sadler?
Yes, I would also like to offer my condolence to the Radish family. I hope that everybody exercises their right to vote tomorrow.
Mrs. Ventures?
Thank everybody for coming out, and I too was at the trunk or treat. It was a little bit overwhelming how many people were there. It was amazing. Lots of kids that were very happy. And have a safe evening and have a safe Halloween on Friday.
Mr. Mercado?
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and I want to thank everyone that participated in our trunk or treat. It was our first annual one, and actually I had thought about this last year when unfortunately people were misled by people in our township that we were trying to cancel Halloween, and I had proposed this to the mayor, but it was too short of a notice. So this year we opened up the park. We had over 2,000 people attend. Over 4,000 pieces of candy were given out by the township in addition to the 40 cars that were registered. People enjoyed hot chocolate, they had a good time, they had hay rides. I'm a country boy, so I grew up having hay rides, but we had kids who have never been on a wagon before with hay, enjoying it being driven around our field here. And I want to thank Public Works for their help, our police department, specifically our community policing unit. We didn't expect the numbers that we had Friday night, but there was no incidences at all, and we got through the night, and it was a wonderful evening for Gloucester Township. And I want to thank the 40 registered cars that gave out candy out of their own pockets to the citizens and residents of our community. And it will be bigger and better next year, and we'll be more prepared to handle a bigger crowd. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Sir?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the residents for attending tonight's meeting. I'd like to send my condolences to the Radich family. It's a tragic way to lose a member. And he was a good citizen for Gloucester Township and a great police officer from what I've been told. So please send that out
Thank you.
to the chief. I was glad to hear the great results of the trunk or treat as a way of getting the community together. I thank those who put it together, and again, it's a safe way for younger residents to enjoy the Halloween holiday. I would just ask that those that are still going out the traditional way to please be safe and follow all the rules and of safety, so that we don't have any tragedies over a nice Halloween for the children. So with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you.